Hey guys, what's up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So as usual in this video, let's go over the market, see what happened today, of course, being the Friday, the end of the week, see how the market finished, see how Tesla finished for the week and what we can potentially expect for next week. So Tesla pretty much flat, ending the day down. I mean, at this point, 0.32% down is essentially flat nowadays, because if it's not moving more than 2%, it's pretty much flat. But nonetheless, it is down, albeit extremely slightly. So not a huge move, to be completely honest, and you can see Tesla is just extremely undecisive. It's extremely just undecided where it wants to go, which, you know, is interesting because, you know, it is consolidating, and, you know, this means that as it gets tight, like, this is going to explode soon. Again, I'm still personally expecting it to the downside, but again, we'll see. Mainly because, I mean, there's many reasons I'll explain, but, you know, one of them being the fact that we did run up quite a bit here. You know, this just needs a cool off. But with that being said, we did run up here even more, and like these candles made it look like we're about to just drop back down to fill this gap, like at the very minimum back over here. But instead we just kept running. So sometimes with Tesla, you really just never know. The stock really just has a mind of its own sometimes. But the thing with this that's the difference is because so this is 1025. Let's see what the SPY did on 1025. SPY ran up too. SPY did run up. SPY started running up on 1013. What day did this start? 1013. This was all the way back here. I mean, I guess it was running with the SPY, so that could have been a whole market thing. I mean, this could happen again. Like, you never know. But so we'll see. So essentially, like what I said earlier still stands. Essentially, you want to see Tesla at the very least break 1020. Like break 1020 at the very least. Like that's number one. Like you want a 1020 to break to the upside, and then you want 1040 to break to the upside, and that will signal the fact that we're still probably going to rally more, and we're not done yet. But as long as 1020 and 1040 remain to be not broken essentially to the upside, then the next thing you want to look at is 1000. 1000 is pretty much like that middleman, where as long as the Tesla is just overall above 1000, then, you know, the idea of 1020 or 1040 breaking to then turn into more upside is still very much on the table. Then on the flip side, of course, the other option is the fact that, well, if 1000 breaks and it kind of stays under 1000, well, then that starts opening up the potential for 988 to break. And especially this like 978, 980, that this general range right here will be similar to this range up here. So it's kind of just like what comes first. That's the big question. And it's extremely hard to tell. Personally, again, this bear flag was playing out. And in my opinion, this is on a 15-minute, I really think that this candle right here, this one we had right here at like 1530, which is, what is that, 330? This should have been the signal. Like this right here should have been, in theory, of course, the confirmation that we're breaking downwards from this little bear pennant or whatever you want to call it, you know, that was forming. The fact that, I mean, it clearly ended up being like an absolutely like just disgusting bear trap. But not only that, it actually rallied back in to the top of this channel. I don't really, this market is extremely strange. You can see this is essentially what happened. We've just straight plummeted down and then just straight rocketed up. This is not a normal market to see this kind of stuff happen and to see moves like this. And it wasn't just Tesla. Like it's not just Tesla. It's the market, right? QQ, same thing, plummeted and then pretty much rallied even higher. And then same thing with the SPY, plummeted and then rallied even higher. To me, if I had to take a wild guess, I would say that this move here is just all of those bullish calls that we're exercising, like into the end of the day. You know, for this Friday, of course, there was like an insane amount of bullish calls, I think, across the market, and especially in Tesla. And I think they were just in the money. Like the fact that it ended above 1000 over here and it couldn't really push below it, and I think they just started exercising. That's my guess. I don't know. I could be completely wrong. I have no idea. But if I had to take a wild guess, could be that, could be something else entirely. I don't know. But there's also one other thing I want to show you guys very quickly. This is more of a bearish thing though, but it's obviously worth pointing out in my opinion. So on Twitter, you can see here, so we have essentially a massive drop in the US, the 30 and the 5 year spread. And essentially, if this hits zero, that essentially pretty much, as far as I'm aware, again, you know, take this with a grain of salt. I'm not super familiar, like super like knowledgeable or whatever when it comes to this stuff here. But essentially, this pretty much means that if it gets to zero or as close to zero as possible, that's pretty much asking for a recession. This is the bond market. So essentially what this shows is that the bond market is not really believing the Fed, while the stock market is. So there's a massive contrast there. The bond market is saying that's whatever the Fed is saying is bullshit and we're going into a recession. The stock market is saying, nah, we're not going into a recession. The idea there, one of them is wrong, obviously. Obviously, one of them will be wrong. The question is which one. If the stock market is wrong, it's going to completely crash. Well, not crash, but it will drop to the point where I wouldn't even be surprised to make a lower low. If the bond market is right, well, then the stock market just will act normally, if you will. We'll just have like, regular a regular pullback, and probably continue rallying, blah, blah, blah. We'll see. One of them is wrong. At this point, it's just which one is the question. And who knows, right? Obviously, it's not an easy question to answer, or else if I knew the answer to that, trust me, I would be richer than Elon Musk. That's all I'm going to say. Anyways, so that's essentially what I'm seeing with Tesla, right? So it pretty much had a breakdown from the bear flag and then just rallied back up into the bear flag. So we'll see next week, I guess, what happens. I do think Monday and Tuesday will be also very telling. I really thought this was the signal here, but I guess not. So Tesla also, of course, the candles you can see. So let's delete these for now. The candles, of course, are still looking weird. You can kind of see this almost like flag, if you will, bear flag, bull flag, whatever you want to call it, kind of forming here. You can kind of like see it, and it's very indecisive. You can see it is definitely getting tighter. It's constantly trading in a tighter range. So you have this 4 hour, these are the 4 hour candles. You had a massive range here. Then you have like these two candles, with pretty big ranges, kind of gets tighter. Then this is why it's so confusing, got tighter. And then it exploded to the downside, which makes you kind of think, okay, well, we're going back down. And then it's like, no, we're going back up. And then it's like, no, actually, I don't know where we're going. And then it kind of ended in between. And then today is kind of similar. But the point is that the overall candles, they kind of like generally are just getting tighter, 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 or smaller, smaller, smaller in terms of the range it's trading, and just overall, like in an average sense, if you will. And that might keep happening. And I think this will keep happening Monday and maybe Tuesday. But one of these days, it will give. And it'll give, again, either to the upside or the downside, mentioning those levels I talked about at the beginning of the video. To the upside, 1020, 1040, downside, I think it was 980, like 990, 970, or 990, 980, like that general range as well to the downside. So essentially, which one breaks first? That's the question. But I think the 1,000 level is going to be the dictator of that. So far, it's clearly holding above 1,000, which is very, very good. But we'll see what happens, of course. You never know. Looking at the weekly, of course, you guys know, like, it's good to look at the weeklies on Fridays. An extremely bullish recovery. Like, this is a disgustingly bullish recovery. I will admit that this is very, very bullish. Doesn't mean that we won't have drawbacks. But I think overall, so far, this either screams very, very bullish, and on any pullbacks that we get, which we will get, it's not a bad idea to buy the dip. Not financial advice. Make your own decisions. But in theory, this could also be a disgusting bull trap. Again, the whole thing I'm talking about is how the market is just very different than the bond market right now in terms of what they're expecting to happen. And again, one of them will be wrong. Either this is a massive bull trap and the stock market is the one that's wrong, or the stock market is right the whole time and we're essentially re-entering bull territory once again, depending on the next pullback. The next pullback is going to be very important to determine if this is just a massive trap or if it's like a very, a healthy pullback. This is the correct movement. The market itself is right, and we're probably going to continue for a nice bull rally going into potentially the rest of the year. We'll see what happens, right? We don't know yet for sure. That's why it's so confusing. That's why stocks are just going all over the place, and even the indices are sometimes trading in like penny stocks. It's not normal. But again, Tesla with the daily candle closures, guys, I did talk about this yesterday, but similar to today, you can see this one was, whenever the price closure and the opening price is close together, and the closer it is, the quote unquote like worse it is essentially, or better. It depends on which aspect you're talking about. In this case, worse, because the signal is a reversal. So if it's falling, and then you start getting that tight close and open price, aka this little like candle itself, like this, the green part is as tight as possible to each other, then it just signals a reversal usually. So again, if it's falling and this happens, it means it's a reversal to the upside, and of course the flip for when you're going up and then this happens, it's this reversal to the downside, and it's getting tighter. That's something else to keep in mind. So there's a lot of signals pointing to bullish and bearish signs. I mean, the fact that it ended above 1,000 again and for the week is bullish. That's a very, very good sign. But the fact that all these other things that are happening, well, that's bearish. And it's extremely confusing to read these charts. Like, it's very confusing. It's extremely confusing. Like mainly because the market itself is just very undecided and the market itself doesn't know what to do. But that's essentially what I'm seeing right now. So those are the levels I would definitely pay attention to beginning of the week next week, ladies and gentlemen. And I already talked about the pullback, targets. So like I said, probably drop down to this area, bounce, and then drop again to retest the T line, or in a slightly more aggressive tone, which I wouldn't be surprised with this market and the way it is, we drop even further all the way down to the T line, roughly maybe like the 900-ish level, which is essentially the T line over here, bounce up to this 940, 950 level, and then probably drop back to this red line down here, which will be in the low 800s. That's essentially what I'm expecting to see, if assuming, of course, we pull back. If we continue rallying upwards, then the pullback could be a little bit different. But we'll see what happens once that actually gets confirmed, because at the moment, nothing is confirmed, and we are still essentially trying to figure out where the hell we're going and what the hell's happening. Very quickly, the QQQ and the SPY. QQQ ending red, but pretty much flat. Pretty decent close. It didn't close above this, which isn't necessarily good, but it's not bad, because you can see the wick down here is extremely low. If this was green, this would actually be a fairly bullish candle. But the SPY is essentially that. The SPY is a very bullish looking candle. It's pretty much an exact hammer candle. My only problem is that it's a hammer candle on the upside, which is like weird. It's very weird to see a hammer candle when you're already still rocketing up. Usually you want to see these as like, you're falling down and then it gets a hammer candle and then, okay, now we're going to rally. The fact that we're getting a hammer candle after all this green already, it's just weird. Like, it's just very strange. I'm not going to lie. It's very difficult because it's a bullish candle. But does that mean that there's still that much more room upside? Very well could be. Like, we easily could potentially run up, in my opinion, to 456 to /457. Like, that wouldn't surprise me. So one option I have for the market in the SPY is run up to 457, 456, somewhere in that range, essentially where these two candles, these green ones up here were. Probably get rejected there. I think that will be kind of ridiculous if we just casually break through that and keep going. That will be insane in my opinion. But we might. But I think in like a bull case scenario for next week, might rally all the way up here, which will be another rally of about, it's not a huge rally, but it is something, about another 1%. And then I think we might stop here. And that, I think, will be a nice little kind of triple top-ish. But I think what more importantly will happen is we retreat back to these levels over here, you can see, which is around like that, like the 432 to like 425, somewhere in that range, which will form an inverted head and shoulders, which is a bullish setup. And I think that will be essentially pretty nice, which will be like, this will be the shoulder. This is the current head right now. And then this retracement back down to this general level will be the second shoulder. That's a possibility. We'll see what happens, guys. But of course, all that being said and done, that's it for this video. Let me know what you guys think. Hope you have a great weekend. And I think next week is also going to be a very spicy weekend. I'm very curious to see what happens next weekend or next week. I'll be completely honest. This is getting weird. This market is very weird. Like, I'm just saying right now, like, something is just feeling very suspicious. Also lower volume today. Keep that in mind, guys. Definitely lower volume today. Not on the QQQ or SPY. QQQ and SPY about the same as yesterday. Tesla lower though, but not a lot either. It's not nothing too crazy. But yeah, that's it for the video, guys. Thanks for watching. See you next week. Peace.